this is so exciting. We are here to do our second episode of the Classics Disney podcast. And I'm Rachel, and my friend Stanford is here to talk about Disney.
Yay.
Yeah, so our first episode was on Cinderella, and we were planning to have our second episode be on Lady and the Tramp because of the Signature Classics release, Blu-ray release, but we didn't realize that it's not coming out until the 20th of February.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be earlier in the month.
And so we were going to do that one next month. So it'll be fun. So we did a little poll amongst my Twitter followers to see which one I picked out for movies and which one we should do. I can't even remember all the choices now. I think I had Great Mouse Detective, Pinocchio. I can't
remember what the choices were too.
Zootopia. I had Zootopia on there. And I can't remember the
Lion King, or was it Zootopia for sure?
Yeah. I can't remember what the fourth choice was, but anyway. And so, to my delight, the Great Mouse Detective won the poll. So that was really fun.
Oh yeah.
And and so we're going to talk about because we are not doing this podcast in chronological order. We're doing it in random order. It's just much more pleasant that way. And each one, fun. We're going to dive into a Disney canon classic. And so The Great Mouse Detective, and I feel like this is in the conversation for one of the more underrated Disney films. Would you agree?
Oh, I absolutely would agree. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting film because so often with Disney, I feel like the B projects end up being the ones that people really love. Here you have the Black Cauldron was definitely the sort of the A project, and they're like, okay, you guys can work on this other one on the side.
Yeah.
Do that. And it's the same thing with the Lion King. You know, the A project was Pocahontas. And then like the Lion King people were like the Bad News Bears. It was like working on this other thing, you know, right. Animal movie. And same thing with Zootopia and Moana, I think. Although that one's not quite as stark because both those movies were really well received. But Zootopia is the one that won the Oscar. And I think that was the one that they were sort of like, oh, that's sort of the other project. And Moana's the Ron Clements and movie. And so anyway, it's just funny how that works out for Disney. They should have more faith in their B projects at this point.
Exactly.
So yeah, you have some experience with this film in particular that's unique.
Well, I do, and it'd be nice to let me share a bit of that. You know, yes. I love this movie, and really, I'm a big fan of Ron and John. You know, John Musker and Ron Clements, the longtime directors at Disney Animation. Yeah. The Great Mouse Detective is their first film that they directed for Disney, and they also, as you mentioned, most recently directed Moana.
Right.
And so just before the release of Moana in 2016, Walt Disney Animation Studios put on a Ron and John retrospective, they called it. And they did this week-long film festival where every night they played one of their 6 films. And so I went down. It was at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, that Disney kind of exclusively shows their films there. And so 2 nights I went to, first night I saw Treasure Planet, which is a Ron and John movie, as we know. And then, but sadly Ron and John were not there for Treasure Planet.
Okay.
But no, I'm getting confused. They were there for Treasure Planet. They were not there for The Great Mouse Detective.
They started working together on this movie, and originally it was John Musker was paired with another person, and it was Ron Clements who came up with the idea, was sort of promoting the idea of the movie. And then when and then they ended up getting paired together, and of course Ron and John did my favorite Disney movie, The Little Mermaid.
The Little Mermaid. Yep.
So they are just amazing.
They are amazing. And they did Aladdin, which is one of my which is probably in my top 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they only have a couple that I don't love, but I still sort of admire. Like I don't love The Princess and the Frog.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I admire it, and I can watch it. It's not terrible. They don't have anything that's below. Like I think my lowest from them is probably in like the 30s of my Disney ranking. So they don't have anything that's like in the bottom tier.
Yeah, they're an awfully good team. It was so fun to hear them speak at that that screening I went to, and then they actually sat in the row right in front of me. So I felt like probably the one time in my life I'll get to watch, a Disney animated film with the actual directors. I wanted to pat him on the back after the movie ended and say that was awesome. But I showed self-control. Yeah. But one of the funny things, Rachel, is that at the screening for The Great Mouse Detective, because Ron and John weren't there, they worked with Bernie Manson, who's a longtime Disney artist and director.
The original co-director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Bernie was there at this, the screening, and so was Rob Minkoff. Rob was an animator on The Great Mouse Detective, and he ended up being a co-director of The Lion King. Mm-hmm. It was very fun to hear some of their stories about the movie. And the original title of the project was Basil of Baker Street, because that's what it was based on, the name of the book that the film is based on. Mm-hmm. But the marketing people at Disney at the time were really jittery about that title. They thought it was too obscure. And so it really ticked off the production team, is what the story that, Rob and Bernie were telling us at the screening. And a memo, this is in the days before email, because this film came out, in 1986, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody sent out a memo under the name of Peter Schneider, who was the head of Disney Animation at the time, Disney Feature Animation. And it wasn't him, it was some disgruntled animator. And I'm just going to read you a little bit of this, if that's okay.
This was a mock memo.
It was a fake memo under this guy's name. And supposedly he was very upset, about this. So the title is, along with the new title for Basil of Baker Street, it has been decided to rename the entire library of animated classics. Yeah. The new titles are as follows. So as you said, 7 Little Men Help a Girl instead of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. It goes on. The Wooden Boy Who Became Real. For Fantasia, it's Color and Music. I love Cinderella. Cinderella is the girl with the see-through shoes.
Nice.
Jungle Book is a boy, a bear, and a big black cat. Robin Hood is Robin Hood with animals. And then, but the only one that didn't have a name change was just Aristocats. Anyway, that's really funny. It was funny, and it was just funny to hear that little part of backstory about the creation of that movie, and then how it got its kind of.
I guess they were
title.
Worried that it was too British.
Yeah, and that people weren't going to understand the Sherlock Holmes connection or whatever. Kind of lame, but still it's funny. It's funny.
Well, I mean, especially Disney in the 80s was very insecure and very, I mean, you just look at, obviously with Black Cauldron, it was hacked to death. And I would love to see the pre-Jeffrey Katzenberg hack job Black Cauldron. I would just be so curious.
Wouldn't that be fascinating to see? I wonder if there's an edit of that, that still exists somewhere in the archives there at Disney. That would be
That'd be amazing. It would be so amazing. I'd pay good. That would be really interesting to see. But yeah, even the Fox and the Hound is very kind of hacked together, very insecure. Definitely Oliver and Company is just all these ideas and it wasn't until I think this movie is really important for Clements and Musker because it kind of gave them their feet, gave them their confidence, and then And then with The Little Mermaid, with what they would do with that, which is just such a confident film, and it's such a, I just feel like they needed this before they could do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And the way that this movie uses music, we're going to talk about that, and just some things. I feel like this was a really good sort of like testing ground for these two directors and what they were going to do. Released in 1986, and I feel like we're so spoiled now because like we get a Disney animated film almost every year.
Every year, basically. And if we don't get a Disney film, we get a Pixar film, which
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this year's a little bit leaner as far as animated films than last year.
Yes, true.
Because, last year we had a mainstream animated film.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Almost every month. Some months there were, like in June, there were 3.
There were 3
in 1 month, and of course, in 2016 we got 2 animated films.
Right, we had Zootopia and Moana. Yeah, and
yes,
both really solid films, I
yes.
think, in their own regard. Yeah,
both great. And I really do feel quite strongly that if Moana had waited and been released in like February or March of 2017, I think that it would win. It would win Oscars. Mm-hmm. I definitely think it would win Best Song, and I definitely, would it beat Coco? I don't know. It would be close, at least, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So anyway, but we're just spoiled now, and we don't realize, like, in the 80s, there were some years where not a single animated film came out at all.
You used to have to wait like 3 to 4 years in between films.
Like, not even just Disney. There were some, I think it was like 87 or 84 that had 0 releases.
Yeah.
And I think I forget. I think it's 84 and 87, and one of those years it was just like a Care Bears movie. Like, there wasn't any. And so these movies would come out, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was so exciting.
It's an event.
It's just,
truly. Yeah.
Like, and I think that you kind of valued these maybe imperfect films even more because they're just, that's all you got, and so you just loved it. But that's definitely what made The Little Mermaid like such an epic thing when it came out, because it was the first princess movie in 30 years, and it was the first movie like that in so long. It was so exciting, but for some reason, even despite that, we tend to skip over this movie. I don't know why, but it's just a really fun little movie. Well, actually, I think I kind of know why, because there are some elements in it that are interesting, we're going to talk about, but particularly as it starts up, the movie is really great about creating a sense of atmosphere and tone. And the opening scene is one of the scariest scenes in all of.
Oh, it is scary. And I think, I didn't see it as a child. When I saw it the first time, I was, older, but when it came out, but wow, it is scary. And really interesting how they chose to start the film.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I saw this until the night. I think I saw this on VHS. I mean, if I do, I don't remember, and I highly doubt my parents, because I'm younger than you are, and so I was only 5 when this movie came out, and there's no way my parents would be taking me to see that at 5. That would not have happened. And so, I'm positive I just saw this on VHS.
Yeah, scary. Yeah.
And because it's scary, it's very, very scary in music and tone, and her father's getting abducted, and you see the bat. And so, I wonder if that's kind of part of the reason, is because it was sort of in this dark time for Disney, first of all, and second of all, because it is pretty scary. Not all the like little kids saw it in the way that like a Little Mermaid, might have been seen. But anyway, so you get this crime has been committed. You've got little Olivia, that is, her dad has been abducted, and you have the Dawson, doctor, that comes along, meets Olivia, and they go and find Basil. And so what is your feeling about this introduction?
Well, I agree with you about, how instantly the tone is set for this film. But I think, too, if you've just got any familiarity with Sherlock Holmes, it's instantly comforting because, there you see Dr. Dawson and you know that, he's in the Watson role, right? Mm-hmm. And then also, though, when they go to Basil's house, they have the shadow of Sherlock Holmes playing the violin.
Yeah.
And so instantly you see that connection, and I just like how they just don't waste any time, Instantly you can see, okay, this is going to be, it's a mystery. Who kidnapped the toy maker, and what's going to happen to cute little Olivia, and then you instantly meet these main characters, and so I love the setup. And I agree with you. It is scary, but then also I just think it instantly gets pretty comforting.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really good point, because you do know that everything's going to be okay because Sherlock Holmes is on the case. And
on the case.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But I do think it's probably too scary for little children. For like
I think
little tykes and stuff.
They'd be disturbed by it.
I would not have like a kindergartner, that kind of age. I don't think. But I think like second grade is fine.
Probably be okay. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, good point.
So, but anyway, yeah, and they just do such a good job sort of establishing the character of the Sherlock Holmes type character with Basil, with him, doing the science experiment when they find him, and he's totally like oblivious to everybody else in the room, and he's shooting pillows. And that's just a very like all just sort of Sherlock Holmes.
It's so fun. Yeah, I love it, and they've got the great Henry Mancini did the soundtrack, his only soundtrack he did for a Disney animated film.
Oh, really?
And
I didn't know that.
And it's so charming because I'm just hearing it playing in my head too. All that fun music that's going on as he's doing those experiments in his living room, and
it really is a fun, like jumpy, bubbly score. Like it really works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Henry Mancini really delivered, I think, big time for them, as he always did. I mean, his soundtracks are always so good. But
yeah,
it's so fun that he did a Disney movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was his only one. For some reason, I thought he had done others. But yeah, it was really good. And so they get started on the case, and he mentions the evil Ratigan.
And there's the lightning, they've got that wonderful portrait of Ratigan there in his house that,
yeah,
the Moriarty, of his of this world, right?
Ratigan, and you see him with Flavisham, with the dad, and we hear Alan Young's voice. The voice casting in this is solid.
I know,
really
it's solid.
And a lot of people will recognize Alan's voice because he is the voice of Scrooge McDuck. And it's very recognizable. And of course, we have a very recognizable voice for Ratigan, but the rest are just voice actors, but I think they are very good.
They're so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah.
I agree. And so we get the amazing Vincent Price as Ratigan. Isn't that the coolest? Again, that Vincent Price is in a Disney movie too. I know. That's so. You'd probably. I don't think I would have appreciated it as a youngster, but as an adult, I just think it's so rad. It's so good, and I think that we have gotten in this weird spot with movies where the villains have to be these complex characters and whatever, but like I miss this, like it's just the all bad, like they just want to be wicked and they're selfish and they're like singing about the fact they're selfish and they're singing about the fact they're bad. I like that. This is like one of the ultimate examples. In fact, this is one of the earliest really like villain songs, because you don't realize that like Lady Tremaine doesn't have a villain song. Maleficent doesn't have a villain song. I mean, there's kind of a villain song for Captain Hook, but like not really.
It's pretty short.
I guess the Siamese cats have a villain song. So there's a few in there, but like the early movies don't really have like a good villain song. And this one, so great.
It's great. I mean, it's just a giant production number, with all the other,
Ratigan.
It's so fun. And again, Henry Mancini, right? And it's terrific.
Because we've gotten like surprise villains, which I think they think are more complex, but I don't know if they necessarily are. But we've gotten surprise villains with Frozen, Big Hero 6, with Wreck-It Ralph. Like Moana didn't really have a villain, but we got a surprise villain in Zootopia. Like I just miss we really haven't had a good
like a villain that this is the villain. And this is what's going. This is what's the protagonist is up against. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, he sings the song about the world's greatest criminal mind. Like that's the kind of villain that I really miss. And we haven't had one like that since Mother Gothel, I don't think.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and Ron and John created one of the best ones with Ursula.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ursula the Sea Witch, because that's so great, and
that's kind of very true. And Gaston has a great villain song.
Yeah.
Is a complex villain. I mean, I guess they didn't create that, but anyway, that whole era had some good villain songs. You got Scar's villain song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of surprising in a way they didn't give Hades a villain song.
Yeah. That would have probably been fun. Maybe there was one that's on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I mean, I just love lyrics like he says, tricky, now comes the real tour de force, tricky and wicked, of course. My earlier crimes were fine for their times, but now that I am at it again, an even grimmer plot has been simmering in my great criminal mind. It's just fun. It's just
so
fun.
Much fun. Yeah.
And I miss it.
Yeah. It's fun because it also, it's one of those things because that song shows how diabolical Ratigan is, but it's not particularly scary. I mean, it gets a little dark kind of near the end of it when he feeds that mouse to the cat, but that also introduces that whole kind of threat too. Still, I love it. It's just it's a fun way to show a very scary villain, but it also is kind of a reprieve from how scary the opening is too.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah,
it's sort of a breath of fresh air. It's kind of similar in a way to Cruella in a way, where it's so sort of over the top.
Pretty campy. Yeah, he's really over the top, but that's what makes him so fun.
Yeah, I agree. So, and it is hilarious that a character named Ratigan would hate being referred to as a rat. That's just funny. That's good.
It's funny. It works.
Giant cat.
Felicia.
Yeah. Felicia, who eats the mouse. Like, it calls him a rat. That's pretty intense.
It's pretty intense. Felicia's, I love the character design of Felicia. It's really because good. She just looks like this, like this pampered cat who's pretty rotund, but just mean, just like, kind of like almost like Lucifer, it's from Cinderella is what Felicia kind of reminds me of.
Yeah.
I love it. And she says that she have a bow in her hair.
Yeah. Well, just the fact that she listens to Ratigan and of course makes
he rings a bell. Isn't that what it is? Right? Mm-hmm. Right? He rings the bell and Felicia comes running to eat whoever.
Poor cats. Cats always, I guess we got the Aristocats, but poor cats. They always get that one. There's the Siamese cats.
They sure get relegated to the, thankfully there's, I guess it's like little Figaro the cat from Pinocchio is a good, it's a good character, but They
end up with they find Toby, who's a really cute character too. So this is the dog.
Toby the dog, who's like their transport.
Yeah.
Around
this is Sherlock Holmes' dog, basically.
Yeah.
That's what we're led to believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cute.
And it's really cute. Toby's a really cute character too, I think.
Yeah. And so they go to this toy store, and that's where Fidget, the bat, is. And this is another really scary scene. Very creepy. There's a lot of atmosphere in there. He's going there to get uniforms, and I can't even remember what else.
Yeah, he has a list that Ratigan's given him, and they kind of use it for comedic purposes. But yeah, he's basically buying stuff for the diabolical plot of Ratigan.
It's pretty scary, and
yeah, they do a pretty effective job, don't they, with shadows and light in there, and all those toys that are so creepy without full light, right? Like all those music boxes and things that they make them look really scary. Yeah.
They're really scary, and they just like you said, they use shadow really well. It's really interesting to me because in Fantasia 2000, when they have the short with the soldier, and like that, to me, even though this technology is higher, it looks way worse to me than what they're able to achieve here with less technology. As far as it just looks so much better, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So Olivia gets abducted, which is a scary scene for sure. And Ratigan puts her in a bottle, and just this is to convince Flavisham to continue his work. And we of course, then Basil they're distraught. They got to find Olivia. Where has she been? But they find Fidget's list, and that's how they figure out, through his elementary deductions, which is a lot of fun. And that's such a classic Sherlock Holmes.
I love it. I love how they do it. Yeah.
So they end up at this saloon, I guess you'd call it, bar. I don't know what.
In a seedy part of town. They're like, they're on the other side of the tracks. That's for sure.
And this is a really funny story. So when I was doing my canon rewatch, I watched, they have this whole scene, "Let Me Be Good to You" song. It's sung by this saloon singer who I call it the mouse stripping song, because she starts out with clothes and ends up with very little clothes.
Well, I mean, it's this burlesque song, It's so crazy. It's like, this is a Disney movie.
And all the male characters are all like hooting and hollering and stuff, and it's like, what? And so I saw this, including Dawson, who's like, really? And I was just like, what is this? I had no memory of seeing it before. And so I called up my mom, and because my parents do not really participate in media hardly at all. My dad especially, like, they just don't. They don't like TV. They don't like movies. But they like Disney fine, and they would let us watch things, but they're just not an interest of them. Except for Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is like the one thing that my dad loves. And he loved the Jeremy Brett. I don't know if you ever saw that, Jeremy Brett series from the 80s and 90s.
I never saw
Sherlock Holmes. That's so good. Especially the early seasons. He's an amazing traditional Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, he loved that. That was the one show that we make sure to we had like them all recorded on VHS. And so we certainly had this, and this was one that my dad liked. My dad also loves The Jungle Book, and he also loves Robin Hood. Those are like his
good. Okay, good choices.
Yeah. And so anyway, I was like, Mom, I have no memory of this scene. And watching, because we watched this quite a bit, because we just love Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, yeah, I always fast forward that scene.
Good for your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
That is so great. Yeah, you're just like, where did this scene come from? Yeah, because it is just, yeah, it's kind of inappropriate. It you know, I mean, it serves the plot that they have to go to this bar, to kind of, as they're solving the mystery, but it's weird. It's just straight up weird.
It's really weird. And
yeah.
Somebody on Twitter was saying, like, there's also a scene like that in Five What Goes West, and I'm like, you're right. What is with these mice, like, saloon songs?
Yeah. It's like, what in the world?
I don't know.
Yeah, that seems a little out of place.
So, I would probably also fast forward.
Yeah, if you're watching with little ones, just because it's not that great.
I don't blame my mom at all.
No, exactly.
Plus, it's not like the kind of song that you want, like, your kids, like, because kids will hear a song and then they'll be, like, singing it a million times, especially Disney. And I would not want my kid going around like, let me be good. That would be really awkward. And Basil gets outsmarted by Ratigan, and he ends up getting caught.
He gets trapped.
This is so fun. So Ratigan has like this like elaborate death device thing that he's built. And of course, Vincent Wright just sells it. It's so fun. Elaborate mechanism for these to kill Basil. It's really James Bondish. It's really fun.
And it's so fun. It goes on and on, all the different steps.
Yeah, like it has a bow and arrow. It has a axe at one point. It has a safe that's gonna land and completely crush them. And the funny thing about the scene is that Basil is more upset about him getting outsmarted than about about impending death.
Doom. That's so good.
Yeah. And also, it's really hilarious, the song.
Yes. That's playing on this record.
Yeah.
Which is LP, which is part of the contraption.
Goodbye, so soon.
So soon.
It was the only way that Vincent Price could do it.
Winner from Henry Mancini.
Yes. And we also find out what the real plan is. So we've gotten some little hints at the master plan that the reason why he kidnapped Flavisham is because Flavisham is a toy maker, and he wants Flavisham to make him a robot, basically, of the Queen. And they're going to kidnap the Queen and have this robot install Ratigan as the head of the government, basically. And that's hilarious. And
yeah, exactly. It's just classic. It is, as you said, it's almost James Bond in its scope.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I still think really fits well within the whole Sherlock Holmes aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just makes it really funny and really over the top and really enjoyable, and it just works with Vincent Price's voice, and it's great. And so they go to try to stop Ratigan, but he gets pretty far in his plan. He gets made high prime minister. I forget what they call him, but I just love this line so much. It's so hilarious. His first point of business is to levy a heavy tax. A heavy tax will be executed against all parasites and sponges, especially the crippled, elderly, and especially little children. Which is so funny. And
yeah.
I mean, it is very close to Cruella,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Her puppy obsession. It's especially little children. And And the one guy and the one older person in the crowd says, "You're a monster," and I don't know, it's just great. It's really fun. And
yeah, I like that. I like that part a lot too. It's just, yeah, really well done.
Yeah, and so they end up, and it's really fun because as he is doing this, they are able to stop him, and they are able to start talking. Basil starts talking for the robot queen and saying, "You are the most despicable, reprehensible, horrible, whatever." And of course, that it seems like the queen is saying that, and it's just really fun. And then the last part of the movie is all just basically a chase between Ratigan and Basil and just everybody involved. It's sort of this big chase. First part, they're in the air.
In one of the coolest dirigibles, that little pedal-powered, or those flying machines they've got going on are so fun, I think.
Yeah, it really is.
How they chase each other. It's so imaginative.
Yeah.
And really, again, a beautiful way to use animation, to tell the story.
It even has a little bit of a steampunk kind of feel, I think, in it.
Yes.
Which is fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Probably
really
before
cool.
steampunk was a thing. They end up at Big Ben.
They crash into Big Ben.
Yeah. And this whole scene was one of the first, I believe, real uses of computer animation.
Yes. At that lecture before the film, that I went to with Rob Minkoff and Bernie Manson, Rob Minkoff actually worked on that segment.
Oh, really?
With Big, in Big Ben, and it was really cool because they used it was a real hybrid between hand drawn animation and then using the computer to help build that. And he brought in some of his own hand sketches of it that they used to help inform how they programmed the computer, and it's amazing. And really, when you look at, today you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, but I remember again seeing it in person and really seeing all that. There is something different about that, and then I learned, after that, oh yeah, they used computers in there, and it was phenomenal.
I think it holds up pretty well. I
do too. I think it holds up remarkably well.
It holds up better than the subway scene in Oliver and Company. That looks more like it looks more Tron-ish at a certain point.
Yeah, it does kind of go into a Tron. Yeah.
And also, I just think it looks better. There's certain scenes in The Rescuers Down Under that the computer graphics are so sketchy and so not great. And so I think even better than in that movie. So I don't know. I think it's pretty seamless. I think it holds up quite well. And I think maybe because it's like darker colors. Yeah.
Darker colors, the scenes at night, and also because it's all machinery. It was really smart. It's a smart way to use it because it wasn't like they were trying to keep skin tones or all these things that are so hard. I think they even still are continuing to perfect today in computer animation.
Yeah.
So it looks great. I love it.
It's really good, and you get like a nice.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's tense, and you get a nice ending with Olivia and her dad, and also this new client coming in, which is really fun. And are you surprised they didn't happen to mention in the lecture why they never did any more of these? Like, I'm always surprised. This seems like right for
a sequel
or series or something.
I'm trying to remember if they talked about that, and I don't recall them opening it up for Q&A.
No.
If somebody asked them about that as well, because I agree with you. It really is perfect for a continuation of some sorts. I like that too, though. In that, I mean, of course, I would have liked more of the story because I think the characters are, so appealing. Yeah. But I also liked how it also seemed very Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Here he is. He's on to the next case, and it was also a vehicle to make sure that Dr. Dawson knew how much he was valued by Dazzle, and they officially become a team. But then again, that also begs the question, well, yeah, and I hear that they're a team, and they've got to their case. Let's keep the story going.
Yeah. They just didn't do sequels then in the 80s as far as Walt Disney Animation, and and I don't know if they really did even the television series. Maybe that didn't really start until the 90s. So that of all of their properties, this would be one that I would say do a sequel. I mean, you don't need Vincent Price because you can just have another villain. You do another Sherlock Holmes story. I don't know. I think it would be fun. I think it would do actually pretty well. I mean, maybe people are a little Sherlock Holmes out at this point right now, but a few years ago it would have done really well. The whole Sherlock show is kind of tanked. But who knows? I don't know. It's just always one of those ones where it's like, I think instead of Rescuers Down Under, why didn't they do a second?
Because it's really fun.
Yeah. Where I put it in my ranking, I think I had it somewhere around 18, 19, something like that. It's not in like my top 10, but I really think it's enjoyable. I really think it's fun. I mean, the only real downsides for me is it is a little scary for like little kids, and also just the I think the biggest downside is your mouth stripping song. I think that's the Let Me Be Good. That's sort of its big.
That's so weird. Yeah. I've only ranked a top 10, and so I've seen all the films, but I haven't. It would be in the top half. I think it's fun. There's not a lot I don't like about this film, and I love that it's Ron and John's first film. I'm so wowed by the tone of it, how they're able to really capture the mystery but still keep it fun and exciting. I do think that they really and again, just such a fun use of animation. Just I love so much of the things they did that make it a great use of the medium.
So I totally called it. I remembered it correctly. I have it at 18.
All right.
And number 19.
Good memory, Rach.
Yeah, number 19 is Lady and the Tramp. And spoiler alert for next month. And then 17, I have Tarzan. So there you go.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, it's a great Mouse Detective. It's just a lot of fun. The animation holds up. The voice acting holds up. It's not like Snow White where the voice acting feels a little dated. As much as I love that film, it's just a really solid, entertaining film that I think that boys and girls will like equally, which is a nice element to it.
Yeah.
Olivia and things that will appeal to the girls. And all the detective stuff and all the fun stuff that will appeal to the boys, and it's got fun songs, and Vincent Price is so great, so it'll entertain the parents and the kids. It's just a really solid little Disney film for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So where can people reach you, find you?
All right. Well, thanks, Rachel. I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and also I've just launched a new movie blog, which I've entitled Movies Past and Present. That's PAST and Present. So it's moviespastandpresent.com. So again, I'm just getting started, but hopefully I'll have more content out there too.
Awesome. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and YouTube, and you can find me on social media at SmallingLDS Squirrel. So check it out, and we will be talking Lady and the Tramp next month.